We are joined with Ray. So we've got Ray today. We've got lovely Ray. And you're a mother of how many?
Just one.
Just one. But as you think, thank God.
I couldn't do any more than one. To be fair.
How old?
He's 10 years old now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. What's the most rewarding part of parenting?
I have to say, seeing him achieve his goals. I know people are gonna. It sounds so cliche, but
No.
you do feel that sense of pride. You know, as a mum, like I have something interest in what interests them. You know, pushing them, encouraging them, letting them know they can do it, letting them know they've got as good a chance as everybody else. And then when they actually have their little success, it feels good. It feels really good. To me, that's what being a mum's about.
What's the most important part then? I'm gonna go there. Most important part of like parenting or being a single parent then.
I mean, I feel I'm a reluctant single parent. You know, prior to becoming a mother, I had quite well planned out life. So I thought this wasn't going to happen. This wasn't part of the plan. You know, I was going to have a child. If I was going to have a child, you know, because I had my son quite late in life. I was going to have a child, and we were going to be together, and it's going to be kind of fairy tale-ish. And I think everyone kind of tells themselves that, you know.
There's no way we plan to be single parents.
So at the time I even fell pregnant, I was studying. I was like in the second year of medical school. It was really not the thing to have been doing, you know, finding myself pregnant, but it happened, and it fell through. So I think I've spent a lot of the last 10 years on a bit of a journey of kind of forgiving myself for the way it happened, making the best that I can do with the resources that I have, and I guess showing my son that he might I say just have one parent. He has one parent, he has me, but it doesn't mean he has to miss anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's been of importance to me, more than anything.
It helps to bring about confidence as well, not because you haven't got what some of your friends may have, doesn't mean you can't achieve the same things. You can't be who you want to be in the world. So yeah.
I think I've tried to instill a lot in terms of character, that he knows that what he wants in life is determined about how he approaches life, rather than the fact he's the product of a single parent household. That's what I've made important to him. I mean, I wouldn't say my upbringing was perfect. We've already talked about the fact that nobody's is. I didn't have any, you know, dreadful experiences which I would say, you know, marred me and traumatized me into my adult life. But having said that, you do go through life with a certain amount of trauma from your childhood, regardless of what that childhood was like.
It doesn't have to be does it, you know?
But I was sort of an 80s child, so we kind of think we're one of the last generations where you'd be out all day and you didn't have any way to contact your parents, but they just trusted. They had faith that you'd come back when you were hungry, and you know, you'd be out. We'd be out on the and you know, I remember as well. My mum was quite. Don't remember the amount of anxiety that I think parents experienced. Like, it was a different time. And I do feel like people do have to be more wary now. I don't know though. I've still got innocent part of me, which has the best. I believe most human beings are not wicked. You know, more human beings are good at their core than bad at their core. That's what I tend to believe.
It's in there with everyone. But I think you're born generally good then.
Yeah, people are just opportunists. You know,
and not only that, anything can happen at any minute, and then I become bad. It's definitely in there, but I think you're just born good.
People who I can't mention on camera, who currently are running the world, who possibly weren't born good.
you say you've got a boy, right? He's 10 years old.
Yeah.
So with that aspect of, although it's probably not the age yet, but let's say 13 onwards, of teaching him how to defend himself on the streets, how do you think you approach that? Or is he more reserved? He doesn't, you know, he's not confrontational? Is it like,
he's not confrontational. He is diplomatic.
Okay.
He is a speaker and a talker, probably because his mum is. And I've been the biggest influence on his life. So I think what you were saying before about boys are not girls and girls are not boys. Okay, we live in a time where some people would argue with me about that, but They think differently. They think differently, okay? And I am aware of my limitations, especially as he's growing older. What I have always tried to get him to do is to have a bit of a, instead of just wild, immediate reactions to things, to take time. Definitely my days where I feel like, oh gosh, you know, is any of this working? What am I doing? I'm making this up as I go along. And some of it you are making up as you go along, you know, but we have an honest and open relationship. We talk. Where I feel I haven't got it right, even if I don't see it at the time, I'll come back and say, look, I don't think I was right. I don't think I was right in how I dealt with that situation. Don't think I was right how I spoke to you.
So important.
It's taking
because I didn't have that.
No,
I didn't have that. You know, my mum was strong. She was strong.
Yeah.
You know,
Dead
so,
challenge.
and even now, you know, with my mum, there's lots of things which I know will never be. I'll never get the closure or the apology or whatever.
Different generation.
It's a different generation, and also, like I said, we have this demanding that our parents be perfect people, and then you get to be a parent yourself, and you realise
there is no perfect.
How the hell could they be perfect? I am so not ready for this. How did my mum feel? You know.
My motto for my boy is like, be better than me.
Yeah, I always say that. If you're doing better than me, you're winning. But then you need to one up that. Because your kids are going to come and they're going to need to see the magic, so they can do better. Yeah. We need to keep this on for generations along.
I think mentorship,
Oh.
especially where you have boys, because it does feel to me, I haven't got the statistics, but the majority, actually no, it's obvious, the majority of single parents are single mothers.
Yeah.
And we are having to mother them and parent them in a very harsh climate. Financially, emotionally, relationally. You know, London, I would say, is one of the hardest, it's busy, it's packed with people, but it's one of the loneliest places.
Oh, absolutely.
It's one of the hardest places to be, you know. I felt sometimes I can't show my softness outside.
See, I was saying that earlier.
You don't, you know, you feel like I'm in a situation where people, they'll see your softness, they'll see your niceness, and they'll run all over it. And I kind of feel like my son only gets to see that side of me when we're safe at home and we're in our little zone, and you know, and I kind of lost the thread of the question a little bit. The resources.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking about being in that nice little vibe when we're
at home, isn't it? Safe space.
Just took me right there. Yeah, but I think mentorship is really important. I think there has to be some kind of organisation for single parents, because in itself, it's not a normal state of affairs. There should be two incomes to raise these children. There should be two sets of input to raise these children. It should never be one person's job. And I do think single mothers have an entirely different experience to single fathers. Yes. There's a lot of woman blame around.
Yeah, a lot of. It's a case of where, okay, if your mental health is at risk, you know, I mean, that's the reason why many of us leave relationships. It's still the dad's responsibility to be a dad. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of women are being told, well, you didn't want this relationship, so you look after him. Hello. Imagine if I said that pregnant. Listen, you don't want to look after this, so we don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, we're here now. This is what's happening. I just think it's, in a lot of cases, unfair, because there's not one single parent today that sat here and said, you know, I am financially supported by the dad. I get enough time, or they get enough time with. It's just little drips and drabs. So I do question with a lot of the men, and this is our choices as single mothers. What were they looking for? Because couldn't have been long term, or were you just obsessing with me? And because you can't have me, F you and them kids.
Studying, I was working, I was doing a heavy degree. So my mum did a lot of the heavy lifting when my son was quite young. And my son would be with his grandmother. But in a way, that kind of created a safe space, because then his dad was at liberty to see him whenever he wanted.
And I think a lot of them are gay.
That was not expected.
I wasn't
expecting that.
Undercover.
I'm just being honest. You might have problems with your mother, but then if you've had one child and one good woman, and you've had another child and another good woman, I'm sorry, the problem has to be you. And maybe the hate that you're displaying is because it's not a woman you actually want to be with. It may just be that your soulmate is another man, and there's nothing wrong with that. Please just do what you're doing and stop creating children.
If there was a situation where at what point will women take responsibility for some relationship? I won't say all relationships are one person's fault. You know, if you go to this aspect of like, 50% of marriage ends up in divorce, but 75% of same lesbian marriage ends up in divorce. So men would say, the problem is with women. So
what about gay marriages?
Nobody's done that. I don't know why.
See what I mean?
But the idea is like,
because they
what
cheat
is
on each
it
other
that
consistently.
what is it that women are finding the fault that they can't own responsibility to? I mean, some men would say it's quite easy. You're not agreeable, it's too combatant. Then it's like, what was relationships like? What were you expecting it to be like? And I feel it goes back to community. Community is totally messed up. There's something that you were saying about two-parent household, two incomes. But there's also something about time. Yeah. Those two incomes are not giving those children time. And in most situations, most kids are lacking time. Time is my word, my kind of definition. Time will relate to love. You spend time with the thing that you love.
Quality time.
Quality time.
But going back to what you were saying about women taking their fair share of responsibility, I think that some of the things you just touched on there kind of do have echoes in this toxic stereotype which is put on black women, which is that unless black women are in a state of bland acceptance of everything that is thrown at them on a daily basis, racism, relationship problems, family problems, sexual abuse, if we're not in bland acceptance of this and we show and display the anger, if you like, the displeasure, women often have this stereotype put on us that we are difficult and we are angry and stuff like that. You can feel almost like she's the enemy because you're already. It's like whenever she talks about money, it's pressing the wound. Yeah. Whenever she talks about aspiration, you're trying to. It's pressing on a wound.
So
the wound is not there necessarily because of her. The wound is what has been impressed on you by the society in which you live.
I mean, there's this thing I was kind of making a statement that as they say in the African society, where the men will go out and hunt, and they're not necessarily hunting for game or something like that. It could be an intellectual kind of hunting. You're going out to the community with other men, coming back home and giving that to the woman, that she now takes it to the marketplace. So the idea that women are being docile and sitting at home is not African. It's a European kind of concept. Well, this is from imagination. This is not something that I can say is absolutely true. But from imagination, the tradition is like the African woman or the black woman or the women in general are the ones that bring community together, are the ones that have the resources to maintain this community. But the pressure shifted where it's like the man has got to do this through the Abrahamic religion. Then it's now the balance of reality of a relationship when you're in it. It's like, there's some men that are driven in that way financially and academically and, bringing in the bacon, and they don't want the women to do anything. Well, some other people want to live in a balance.
I haven't met any of those yet.
I do agree, that there's this kind of toxic materialism going on. In fact, you know what? Add this to our resources.
Yeah. That's what the question was initially.
Add this to our resources. This is actually really important. This is important because, as you were saying, there's always a root. There's always a root to every problem that people are having. If people are single parents, if there are broken community, broken relationships, broken homes, it's because something broke down in the first place between people. So I just think there has to be, maybe as a resource, as an idea, some kind of open discussion between people who found themselves in that situation, to even talk as men and women about
so it has to be not just
because this is fascinating to me. This is important to me. This is interesting because maybe by hearing you or hearing a next man or hearing a next man, you get to understand. Was my child's father thinking and feeling this way? But because we were too young or immature or
we didn't understand
and we just saw the behaviour and we reacted to that, or they saw our behaviour without understanding what we were under. They reacted to that. Men are from Mars. Men are from Mars. Women are from Venus.
There you go.
But yeah, I definitely, I'm with you on I'm very anti the toxic materialism that I see a lot of younger generations. They need to feel like there's a place for them in your life.
Oh, they are. They're eternal babies, Rest your head.
These are from the kids. Of all different ages that are raised in single parent households.
You pick one for me, Joe. Go on.
You want me to pick one?
Yeah, you pick one. I'm picking this. Okay. All right, let's have a look. Go for it. What is the hardest sacrifice you've made as a single parent, and how did it affect your relationship with your child? Oh, these
that is a
These
sacrifice.
are humdingers.
They are humdingers. Love it.
I have had to sacrifice my career that I set out to do. I wouldn't say I've sacrificed it completely, but I've had to put it on the shelf because he was having problems. Yeah, I've had to sort of sacrifice my career really to say, nah, this is going to require a lot more from me than allowing him to be in breakfast clubs, after school clubs, childminders. No, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there.
I was there.
So yeah, it's been hard because financially things are harder than ever. As he ages up, and maybe I can go back to being a doctor, I hope that we will be more secure, and he'll also understand why I did it this way. You know?
What's your message to single parents?
Do things like this. Do things like this. It's very healthy to talk about your experiences. It's very helpful to share your experiences. I think single parents are often demonized. There's a perception of us that we're uneducated, we're raising feral kids, we are probably, promiscuous, everything you could think of, and we're not. And we need to obviously show that and demonstrate that anyone can. It can happen to anybody. You don't set out for this necessarily to happen. It can happen to you. It might be the last thing that was on your mind, but do stuff like this. Share, talk, discuss. Because when we talk, we
hear. Oh, come on now.